Okay, here we are. We're live. We're back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Once again, the dreaded technical difficulties have made us start later than we would want to, but it's only 7:11. We were going to start at 7. So it's all okay. It's all okay. Thank you very much for stopping by the Painfully Honest Tech podcast, where we are painfully honest about tech and doing all of the things that are tech. If you know, I always forget to say these things, but it's like if you don't follow me on Twitter, Jason T. Lewis, PhD, on the Twitters and on the Instagrams, then you should do that. You should go do that now. And if you don't follow our friend Zach, well, he'll tell you his information here in a second. But I also want to get in at the top that I am revamping my Patreon and have started to really get that going. I got a Discord that's going, although it's not very well populated yet. I need people. But you can go to patreon.com/painfully honest tech. Check out the Patreon levels, I guess. It's very cheap. It's very cheap. Super cheap. It's fantastic. And you can join the Wizard Squad officially. Wizard Squad officially. So that's my advertisement for today. Follow me on Twitter. Jeff has kindly put the Twitter link in the chat. And also think about becoming a patron on the Patreon, patreon.com/painfully honest tech. So now that we've done that, we're here to talk about many things, I'm sure, but do we want to start, Zach, with the number one thing? Well, first, tell them where to find you, Zach.
First of all, good evening, everybody in the chat and everything. We'll acknowledge some individuals here pretty quick. I want to point out one thing really quick. Look what I finally got. Look what finally came in the mail. You guys, does anybody in the chat remember this? Remember this game?
Yes, I played that game for hours and hours and hours. I remember like going to the theater to see Star Wars and then going to the arcade and playing that game.
Yeah, I had it at home. It was one of the very first games I remember playing. Anyway, you guys can find me at Zach Talks Tech on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course YouTube. It's all the same at Zach Talks Tech, TECH. Yeah,
I need to unify all of my social media handles so that they're all the same thing.
When I was rebranding from Zach Tech Reviews, that was the toughest thing to make sure.
Yeah. Because I mean, what ended up happening to me with my social media is that the social media that I had was mine, and then it became the channels, and then I didn't really like expect the channel to become anything else. So now, like, except for Facebook, which I don't really use anyway, all of my social media is Painfully Honest Tech social media. And so maybe I just need to buckle down and let it be so. Let it be so.
I think you're okay. I think people can find you where they need to.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess so.
So before we kind of dive into things, I mean, I saw some of the chat earlier and everything like that, and people talking, and I mean, the whole Huawei thing right now is a pretty hot topic. There is a lot of misinformation out there, unfortunately. So Jason and I kind of talk back and forth, and we're going to make sure that we lay out a lot of facts tonight
and stay on target.
And try to stay on target. And we're not going to try to do so much conjecture, like, backdoors and this and that, because, I mean, it depends on where your information is coming from, right?
We know a little bit about what is suspected, but for obvious reasons, those things aren't like public knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's as far as we can conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting thing, and I mean, from the chat that I've been seeing scrolling by here, it seems like it's now become a political thing, which it shouldn't be a political thing by and large. I mean,
well, it basically did start as a political.
Yeah, it did, but I mean, it's not a partisan political issue.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah.
So we should just make that clear that we're not here to, like, jump on one bandwagon or the other.
Mm-hmm.
because that doesn't play into the fact that this Huawei thing has been ongoing. It predates the current administration. It goes back into the previous administration. It's been something that's been bandied about for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
And
goes. It does.
yeah,
It does go way back. It's not just with this current administration. But anyway, I'm going to scroll back up here.
hey, we got Danny Wood is back. We haven't seen you for a while, Danny. Good to see you.
There it is. We got Tech Grant in here. We got Jason C as usual. Me Gunner. We got Chris Cho. We'll keep on going down here. Cheese Bella.
Okay,
got some new blood in here. Let's see what else. Geonosis. You ever heard of this guy?
heard of him.
He's been
Yeah.
like every single show. I don't think there's ever been a night whatout him.
Uh,
Thanks for being here, bud.
Whatever happened to Beth? Simply Beth. She disappeared.
I don't know. I know that she's got a lot going on, so she might just be busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hansel. We got Chad. We got 504. Of course, we got the head of security, El Jefe Reviews.
Exactly.
It's gonna be ready with the band hammer.
Exactly. Ben Hammer at the ready.
Yep.
And he'll use it with abandon this evening if necessary.
So I just want to start off really quick because it arrived yesterday, and I only just opened the box like 20 minutes ago.
Right.
But this OnePlus 7 Pro in the Nebula Blue is as sexy as you think it is. Okay. So I'm trying my best to get past the ooh, oh, shiny and talk about only the good things phase and get into my review phase.
Is it right said Fred sexy? Is that how sexy
It's pretty damn close.
Is it too sexy for its shirt or whatever?
Well, I'll show you. I showed you this earlier. Check this out. I'm going to show you the in display. So it's an optical, right? Look how fast this is. Now keep in mind, everybody, there's no camera looking at me. The pop up is down. So watch how fast this is. Oh, I have to touch the right area. Obviously, actually, you have to make it light up first, and then
Bang. Yeah.
boom. Like it's almost as fast as what the optical was before, or the camera.
Yeah, it is fast. I'm impressed. I gotta admit that I stopped using the fingerprint reader on the S10 Plus.
Really? What are you using? The Phase?
Yeah, the Face
Really?
is pretty quick.
Is it?
Face is pretty quick. Yeah,
I've never tried it.
yeah, it's better than it used to be on Samsung phones. Jason asks, "Am I going to get the OnePlus?" I don't know. I mean,
I'm probably going to import the regular OnePlus 7, which apparently is supposed to be exactly like the OnePlus 6T, the purple one. I have it around here, with just a spec bump. Apparently, it's a lot cheaper as well.
Yeah,
it's not offered in North America. I'll have to import it.
Yeah, I mean, I like OnePlus phones. I've done the 5T and I've done the 6T. But it does the videos don't seem to perform particularly well for me, which is not a reason to not do it. But I mean, I got to think about spending my time and my money on this kind of thing. But yeah, OnePlus is a weird phone to me because I still think of it as like a budget phone. Like a mid-tier budget phone, but it's like $800.
This phone, I mean, the price point US dollars is really good. They've always been that budget price range, giving you the best, and then making some corners here and there. This is almost like it's trying to graduate to that tier one, Samsung, Apple type level.
Yeah,
but it doesn't quite know if it wants to be. So,
well, they haven't decided if they want to pay for it. I mean, if they want to be a tier one phone and compete with the Samsungs and the Apples and the other phones that are in that $800 to $1,000 range, they have to put wireless charging on it.
Yeah, I mean,
they have to pay for the IP rating. Yep. I mean, they're using. I don't know why they're using the IP rating is expensive as it's like, okay, but the customers don't know that. Yeah. The customers don't know that the IP rating is probably, well, it's not as BS as the DxOMark scores.
Yeah.
But it's still
Let's
It's
not kid ourselves. That I don't think a lot of the general public is aware of OnePlus, even with the T-Mobile partnership now, and of course all the other carriers. We don't have a carrier up here in Canada,
right,
so OnePlus largely still relies on their internal audience, their internal community, right? That they've built up since the OnePlus One.
right,
So, I mean, I said this in many tweets before, and I still stand by it. I can look past the IP rating thing, because even an IP rating wouldn't save you for warranty. Like water damage wouldn't be covered.
right.
Um, I can sort of look past the whole electronic, pop-up camera thing, because I've had the Vivo phone before. But by the way, both OnePlus and Vivo are owned by the same company. A lot of people seem to already
Mhm.
know that. This is literally a rehash of the Vivo Nex S, which I have, and I'll be doing comparisons. It's crazy how similar they are. But in 2019, I have wireless chargers all over the house just for the convenience,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I don't.
it's something I look for.
You can't leave that out and
Yeah,
charge $800.
yeah.
I mean, that's the long and short of it.
Mhm.
Um,
Did you see Dave 2D's video where he put the OnePlus with a counter in the bucket of water as he did the review? It
no,
was like
I need to
15
watch
minutes.
that.
It was amazing.
It's cool.
It's a bucket of water, had the timer going in. There's like no cuts. It was really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no cuts is impressive.
Well, I think there's 2 or 3 cuts, but I mean, when he went to his like B-roll stuff, but the timer was still synced up, right? So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, and I'll be upfront about this, and I'll even state this in my review. I'm a OnePlus fan. I've done the 5T, the 6, the 6T, and now the 7 on this channel, and or on my channel. Um, I just have to get past that shiny phase. By the way, their new charger that's in here. This is the old Dash charger.
Yeah. Now they
The
got
It's called
the
Warp. It's like twice as big as this. It's
Jesus.
huge.
See, that's crazy. I'd like.
Yeah, I'll pull it out. Go ahead,
I
talk about.
I appreciate the ability to like do all that fast charging stuff, but who among us can really put these huge chargers on our like power strips, and not lose like two other plugs?
It's pretty big. I'll pull it out here. That sounds naughty.
Jeez, that wasn't right. that was not right. It's a family show, man.
Okay, check it out. Check it out. Okay, so this is the old Dash.
Dash charger,
Here's the
yes.
Warp.
So it's basically
Look
twice
at that.
the
It's like
width.
It's like
Yeah,
twice. Look at that.
yeah, twice the width.
Almost.
Twice the width. That's crazy.
I mean,
That's crazy.
if you have certain ladies, they don't mind the width. But I mean, sorry, it's a family show. But it's
a
huge.
family show.
I don't even know what the wattage difference is.
I don't either.
I haven't even checked yet.
I mean, 18 is as big as most fast chargers go. So
It's crazy.
yeah, we'll have to look.
I'll show you guys in the video. But anyway, yeah, I was surprised at how big this thing was.
Yep. And well, before we get deep into our conversation about Huawei and other things, I also want to talk about some Apple news today.
Oh yeah, I saw that like an hour ago. Go ahead.
Well, it seems that Apple has decided that. Well, actually, I knew something was happening, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But Apple has just spec bumped the MacBook Pros. So if you look at the more expensive 15-inch MacBook Pro now has an i9 chip or i7 chip with 8 cores, something like that.
8 cores. Yep.
And the lesser expensive one, the one with the 55X graphics card, is still 6. But my computer odyssey still ongoing. I'm reaching the point of probably very soon getting banned from Best Buy again. But
Did they just politely just tell you not to come back?
No, I got actually, like, they have a third-party company that deals with that stuff, and it notifies you, and you have to sign a thing saying, like, that you're not allowed to return anything for.
Do they know who you are?
Do the people at Best Buy know who I am?
Yeah.
Like my local Best Buy? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they definitely know who I am.
Okay.
Um,
And go ahead.
and I'm more infamous than famous at my local Best Buy. That much is for sure.
So you need to work out like a shout out brand deal, and then they'll be okay with the return.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, there's a new general manager who started working there a few months back, and he's a huge fan of the channel.
Okay.
So shout out to Adam, general manager at my local Best Buy. Um, and yeah, so the computer odyssey is ongoing. I had for a couple of weeks a Surface Book 2. Uh, the Surface Book 2 presents the same kinds of problems that the MacBook produces, in which well, for the Surface Book 2, I mean, you've got a machine that will be and do everything pretty well, but it won't do any one thing extremely well. Like it has a 1060 in it. If you get the 15-inch, 16 gigs of RAM, four core i7, which when they update the Surface Pro or Surface Book whenever, um, I'm sure that'll bump up. But
Mm-hmm.
but I paid like $2,500 for it, and I'd been having some issues. Windows is never as easy as it should be. In fact, this evening we had a problem.
Before you logged on, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like so I got enough. Okay, so I went and I got a MacBook Pro
Okay.
because I found like the highest tier MacBook Pro that they sell without being custom made. I went and I saw that, and I price matched it with Amazon, which was like $4.99 or something like that instead of $7.99. And that's what I had spent for the Surface Book. So I was like, I'll just get the MacBook Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Took it home, and I'm like, yeah, it's working great. Get all my stuff loaded up on there, and then I take the computer away from my desk and I'm watching a video or something. Well, yeah, I was watching video, and I'm like, what? The speakers sound weird. What the hell's going on with the speakers? It sounded like everything was coming out the left side.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into the system preferences. I went to the sound profile. I panned all the way to the right, or all the way to the left, and it was loud. And then I panned all the way to the right, and it was like like that.
That's weird.
So I even went as far, like I was having trouble with this MacBook Pro. It was acting weird. It wouldn't load the drivers for the interface that I usually use, and so I wiped everything. I reinstalled Mac OS, and then it started my audio interface fine, but I was hoping that there was some kind of weird glitch in the operating system that was causing that speaker to be that way. But it was still that way, and I was like, it's not a big deal in the sense that I don't normally sit around just listening to the speakers on my MacBook Pro.
Mm-hmm.
It's less often than more often, and if I'm going to be doing long-term listening, it's going to be on headphones anyway. But if I went to try and sell that MacBook down the line,
You'd have that issue. Yeah.
yeah, and I'd have to lose money on it. So I went back to Best Buy yesterday, and the guy behind the counter was like, if you keep returning these things, they're going to tell you can't return anything. I'm like, yeah, I know. I've been there before.
I could just see when he parks in the parking lot, the alarm bells and everything go off when you pull into the parking lot and
yeah,
walk in the
but
door.
I mean,
Anyway,
I had a totally legitimate reason to return this computer. It wasn't like I was just doing it because, and the Surface Book as well was not performing as it should in certain ways. Anyway, so I'm like, I'll just get another one. Just give me another one. And they're like, we don't have any in stock. I'm like,
of course not.
I'm like, you always have this in stock. This is one of the two 17-inch models that you sell. You always have it in stock. They only had the 256 gigabyte version. And I'm like, I don't want to just go down to the 256. I mean, I use an external Samsung T5 1 terabyte drive to work off of and stuff, but still, like, 256 is restrictive in terms of what you can put on it. And like I have a 256 2015 MacBook Pro that I use at my job, which I'm not going to have access to, I guess, in a couple of weeks. Um, but
Yeah.
but I fixed that problem with an SD card that like is like a little chopped off SD card that is designed to go into the SD card reader.
Mm-hmm.
The MacBook Pro now doesn't have an SD card reader, so I
Nope.
can't do that. Um, so I looked around, and literally, I'd been looking at the MSI gaming laptops,
Okay.
and when I looked on Best Buy's website, um, I looked on Best Buy's website, and they had the one that they'd always had, which was like 16 gigabytes and a 2060, and like whatever eighth series, generation i7 chip.
Mm-hmm.
But then they had another one that was like the same price, but it was a ninth generation chip. It was 32 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gig hard drive, and I was like, basically 32 gigabytes of RAM and an i7 chip ninth generation is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'll give Windows one more try. Windows one more try. And and so I brought it home, and I'm like, yeah, this is actually pretty nice. Like the keyboard, the SteelSeries keyboard on it is really nice. I like the screen is 240 hertz,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't matter in day-to-day work, but if I ever play a game on it, then it would matter.
Still nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, yeah, this is cool. And at first I thought it was broken because I plugged in the charger and it got up to 90% and it said plugged in, not charging. I was like, what the heck?
What?
And I looked up stuff, and I deleted, the drivers for the battery and restarted and all this other stuff, and it still would do that. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So overnight, I decided to. The one thing I like about this MSI, the MSI software is much more. You can get deeper into much more stuff than you can with like Alienware or Razer, their software that they use on their computers.
Okay.
It had a battery like a battery reset feature,
Okay.
which literally took half the night. Like I remember waking up at some point during the night, looking over, and the computer was still doing the battery reset.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look this morning and I start looking around again and find out that the computer will set your battery to only charge a certain amount. So it was set on battery life, like better, more healthy battery, which
Okay.
meant that it would only start charging below 50% and only charge to like 60%.
Oh, that's to maximize your battery life. Yeah.
So like I was able to charge it,
Mm-hmm.
and I set it to like 80% max. But I like this thing. And then
Is it heavy?
No, it's like 4 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, it's
When I think of MSI, I think of like big clunky things.
no, they've got this stealth thin line that they sell at Best Buy, and they sell them other places. But that's what Best Buy carries, is the stealth thin.
See, going back to what you're saying at the start, now you got me really paranoid. Maybe I should undock my MacBook Pro and make sure that everything works, all the keys and everything. Because literally, I got it and I put it in this vertical position. And I think I've typed on it 5-6 times.
Right. So the thing is, like, tonight we go to start the podcast, and you come on and you're like, oh, your voice is really scratchy and
Yeah, you were
echoey.
like, it was like staticky and like echoey. Yeah.
So I have a 45 I think it was $60 Behringer interface,
Mm-hmm.
but my normal interface is a $500 interface that I use, like, like plugins that I've bought and stuff.
Isn't that the Behringer that you suggested to me if I was going to go that way? I think it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got out the Behringer, I switched over to that, and now everything seems to be fine. So there's something about the drivers and Google Hangouts or something that doesn't like.
Mm-hmm.
the more expensive interface, which is annoying. And then there and then they and then they released this 8-core MacBook Pro. So what
You just can't win.
no, I can't. I can't. I mean, I'm trying not to look like a total dork asshole about this thing, but you know,
No, you have you have a system and a way you want to have things, and you just haven't found it yet.
yeah. I'm
Because really,
selling the
yeah.
I'm selling the iMac Pro. That much I
Okay.
know.
Yeah,
The
I saw your
iMac
tweet today.
Pro
Yeah.
is for sale for anybody who's interested. You can DM me on Twitter and we can talk. Um, so asking price 3,700 plus shipping, which I think is a fair deal for like an iMac Pro that I've been using since like mid September.
Yeah, you only got that like I said, last September, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's basically I'm not charging. I would charge 3,900 if I sold it to if I sold it on eBay, because
Hmm.
you're going to lose a ton of money on eBay between eBay and PayPal.
Yeah.
So I'd
Per-
rather to just
and,
sell it to somebody who needs it.
and personally speaking, I would rather buy something from a tech tuber like yourself, knowing that it's been well taken care of, etc.
Right.
This past Sunday, was it Sunday? Yeah, I sold my One Plus 6, the one that the red one, the
Right.
Ferrari came in red.
Right.
And I think I used it maybe 3 times.
Right.
I literally purchased it for an unboxing and I forgot to return it.
Yeah.
So when the guy's opening up the box there, I met him up at a Starbucks. Plug. I'm just kidding. And he's like, he goes, it still smells new. He's coming from a One Plus 3T. And
Right.
I'm like, dude, I've used this like 3 times. I gave him my card. Yes, I have cards. He's like, you have a YouTube channel? I'm like, anybody can do it. He goes, I know this is taken care of. And yeah. So
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
got a bunch of accessories and everything with it. So
Yeah. So like I'm trying really hard to get to a place like I'm doing the like I
you should write a book,
week,
man.
2 weeks from yesterday
Okay.
is when I leave my job. Okay, so I want to have all this stuff figured out. I want to have all this stuff sold that I need to sell,
Mm-hmm.
and money in the bank, and
Mm-hmm.
pay off a couple of things, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and then just be ready to focus on full-time YouTube. But the world is conspiring against me. That's what I'm convinced that's what it is. The world is conspiring against me to allow me to do this. By I don't know how so many laptops could have so many small or big problems.
Yeah, it's always the small things that kind of just take you off, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
paying over $2,000 for a laptop,
Mm-hmm.
then I think I have the right to say it needs to work. It
I
needs
mean,
to be fully functioning in every way.
before my laptop died last April, so it's been a year now that I bought this. So I bought this MacBook Pro last year, which is actually a 2017 souped up model with 1 TB. Okay, so it's whatever came out in 2017 souped up with a 1 TB drive. I'm sure I could look it up here, but anyway, it was after my Asus ZenBook Pro died.
Right.
And that was a workhorse, except when it came to rendering and doing 4K video with the program I was using before, HitFilm Pro, which is still a great program.
Right.
Because I went to 4K, it just burnt it out. Luckily, again, it was under warranty and I was able to resell it. But I was
Right.
just like, it could play all these awesome games and render. But when it came to doing rendering video, forget about it. It just killed it. Yeah.
Yeah. And tech for now, I agree with you. If you no matter what amount of money you pay, it should work correctly out of the box. I mean, yeah, if you pay $200, I wouldn't expect it to work correctly for much longer than that. But but $2,000, I don't think it's outside of my reasoning to want it to work right.
Yeah.
So
No, I think I think you're being reasonable. I think you'll get there. So I guess my question for you is, are you looking at one of these new MacBooks now?
well, here's the problem. I mean, I like this laptop. I've been doing all day today. I'm like, man, I really like
Except
this.
for now.
except for now I have to do something that I do weekly.
How long have you had that more expensive interface that failed on you that we were working on before? How long have you had it?
I've had it for almost a year, probably.
Okay, so it's out of warranty, probably, right?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the interface. I know
Okay,
that much.
okay.
Um, it's probably just something to do with like because it's an interface that has like a software front end
Hmm.
and drivers that have to do that. The Behringer that I have is class compliant. So you
Hmm.
plug it in, you don't need any drivers or anything. It just
It's
works.
kind of like the Focusrite that I have. You just plug and go. Yeah.
Right, right. So this is a Thunderbolt interface that has a software front end that you use to control it before it goes into whatever you're recording or whatever.
Hmm.
And I mean, I love it. It's amazing. But uh I have money invested in the software
Yeah.
that I use with that. You know, I've bought several plugins, and I mean it's not as much as a laptop costs,
Yeah.
but it's not the Apollo, it's the Arrow. So Universal Audio Arrow, which I mean, two channels, Thunderbolt 3, bus powered. I mean, this thing is like probably 6 by 4, you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
and you can just like throw it in there and take it anywhere. It's really a fantastic interface. It's probably one of the best that I've ever used. Um, but if it's not going to work when I'm doing live streams on a PC,
Then what do you do? Yeah, you're just gonna have to go back to what works, I guess, right?
yeah, which then puts me in the position to have to take this laptop, which I really like, and like this has all the specs that I want, right?
So,
And I got
uh,
it on sale for $18.99.
okay, but the Behringer worked before you got the MSI, correct?
Yeah, the Behringer is just like my, like emergency interface.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought it, and I just wanted to try it out, and I thought, well, it's probably a good thing to have, um, probably a good thing to have a spare in case anything goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at that point where I do this seriously enough that I probably should. But it's like $69, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's got one preamp and an instrument input, and it doesn't sound bad. Like I'm using it right now with just the preamp, as opposed to like when I use the Apollo or the Arrow, I use preamps for, I use like a unison preamp that acts like an expensive preamp, and I use a couple of different compressors, and so it's much more it's much more professional using the Arrow.
Yeah. And I
And
understand why you do because that's your background. So
right.
it's kind of hard to kind of go back to
Yeah.
simple, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because you like to have
So,
that control. Yeah.
well, I
You did
mean,
you did a really good video on it, I think, a few months back about audio and everything, which kind of
yeah,
explains everything you're talking about here. Yeah.
which nobody watched, but
I watched it.
I mean, so this channel started out as a review channel of like mostly audio related stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, when I put review related stuff or, how to related stuff that has anything to do with audio on this channel now, it barely goes anywhere
Mm-hmm.
compared to the rest of my videos. So I think, like Roberto and I were talking, I think what I'm going to do is start a new channel
Oh,
that only talks about audio, like headphones or recording gear or how to do audio for YouTube or whatever. Um, yeah, Alan Jackson wants you to mute your phone.
my phone is muted.
Somebody's getting phone messages. It ain't me.
Let me just check. Oh, sorry. It's just because I'm so damn popular. I'll do it.
Yeah. Um, I think you have it set to like notify you every 10 minutes, just
Make
that,
myself look popular.
to make yourself feel good about yourself. Yeah. So, uh, Cheese Bella, Note 9 review. Thanks. Appreciate it. Um, yeah, so I think I'm gonna start a new channel that's gonna focus on uh just straight up audio stuff. Um, because I want to do those things, However, if I do those things here and they don't perform, then that's not good for the channel overall.
Mm-hmm. No,
Because it,
so you really want to niche down.
well, I mean, I kind of have to,
Yeah.
you
No, I
know.
get it. I get it.
It's like
Well,
at
you
this,
could still do headphones and like earbuds and everything on your regular channel, but you're talking about like audio interface stuff, moving that separately, correct?
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, part of what I want to do is like give myself a vehicle for more, um, for more affiliate sort of like to talk about gear and have like the ability to have affiliate marketing links and that kind of thing, and also be more educational than what this channel is. Um, and so I was thinking today, like I had a couple of decent ideas the other day, but I haven't looked on YouTube to see if these are taken. But like something like better audio or better sound.
It doesn't matter. Are you talking about the titles?
Just the name of the channel.
Oh,
Yeah,
why don't you just call it painfully honest audio?
because I think I want to save the painfully honest thing for stuff that's more, again,
But then
more.
people would recognize, you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like
I know,
it's like
but
if I ever did a separate channel, I'd want to keep the word Zach. Like I thought about different names for my channel. I thought about using my full name. Um,
mhm,
but I need to keep the Zach name in there. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you. I hear you. Um, yeah. Well, Chris got a good suggestion there. Wizard Audio.
Painfully professional tech. I like that. I
um,
like that's smart. I like that.
yeah, I'll keep that one in mind. But
Write that one down.
yeah, but it's so I'm toying with that idea.
Look at the one that's held for review.
Anal about audio. Yeah, that was a good
That
one.
works. That totally works for you.
It's Audio Wizard. Ooh,
Oh,
Audio Wizard. That's pretty sweet. Let me type that one in here
he's
to my.
he's typing it down. It's serious.
Well, now I've got a couple of different things. Like if it was only one good idea, I could remember it. But
Man, always go to
so
the community. I love the community. It's great. That's awesome.
yeah, so I still haven't put the notes app that I'm using on the Pixel 3a XL yet.
You don't use Google Keep?
No, I don't like it.
Google Keep is amazing.
Um, it doesn't work for me just because in my notes apps, like whatever notes app I'm using, I actually write like long form stuff in it, and I found that Google Keep wasn't necessarily made for that.
I
But we
just
got
plugged in the OnePlus 7 Pro using the OnePlus 6T charger, and it's still charging rapidly. So why such a big block?
I don't
Interesting.
know. I bet it's all bullshit.
I don't know. That thing is huge though.
Yeah, yeah. I have never eaten panocha. I don't know what it is even.
I thought it said pistachios, but it's not.
So, wait, where did Tech for Your Needs? Audio Wizard. Yeah, that's the one. That's good. Okay, so now I've got a couple of good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm thinking about doing. But we've been rambling on here for quite some time, and we
Mm-hmm.
haven't gotten to the topic that we're really going to discuss, and that is this whole Huawei
Mm-hmm.
ban. I guess to a certain extent, what it is, and why, or as
Let's.
much as we can understand why, but also what are the implications for tech moving forward after this?
So I think the first thing we should do is outline what has happened since Thursday last week, and then we can talk about maybe some past stuff, and then go into conjecture. But I really want to make sure we get some facts right. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So the first thing I want to outline is that it was Thursday last week. that the U.S. government signed off on a bunch of companies that they consider, I won't say enemies of the state, but they identified companies with question
Hostile,
hostile
hostile
companies. Okay,
to
okay,
yeah,
yeah, and Huawei's name was on that. Okay,
right,
now Huawei, everybody, just so you know, Huawei does more than just phones. Okay, a big chunk of their business is infrastructure, and what I mean by that is cell phone towers, antennas, the software used, all the connections, things like that. Okay, so that's a big part of what the U.S. is worried about. We'll talk a little bit more about that first. So they signed that up on Thursday.
right,
Then on Sunday, Google basically came out, or the article started coming out that Google had to cut off their business ties with Huawei. Why? Because Google is a U.S. company, and Huawei is on this list. Okay, and then on top of that, Qualcomm, Intel, etc. Anybody that basically U.S. based,
right,
okay, can no longer do business
right.
with Huawei. Then yesterday, he came out and they said, "Well, we'll give you 90 days to figure stuff out." So I think it's August 19th. Okay,
Yeah,
so so there's two things I want to point out. There's two things I want to point out, and we can talk about it whatever. But I want to get them off my head before I forget. One, I've seen a lot of really silly comments. A lot of really, I guess people just don't quite understand. This
right.
is not a Chinese ban because
Yes,
I've seen these comments saying, why don't they ban OnePlus? Why don't they ban Xiaomi? Why don't they ban? Okay, so it's not Chinese, but it's
right.
Huawei.
It's this specific company, not all companies in China. Now the danger is that in retaliation for this, given like the trade stuff that's been going on between US and China over the past several months,
Mhm,
the danger is that China will restrict in some way the ability for US companies to trade with Chinese companies. And most all US companies, especially in tech, have some kind of relationship with some kind of manufacturer or fulfillment or
mhm,
whatever over there in China.
mhm. So
So maybe that's where people get confused.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a fog of war, and I've seen a few videos from some other tech tubers and everything, and I just wish that it was really um, clarified because the information is there.
Yeah,
So, but again, guys, everybody that's listening, watching, whatever, it's Huawei as a whole, and Huawei has different sectors. Obviously, they have their phones, they have their infrastructure, they have so everything under that Huawei brand is affected. But the U.S. government is mostly worried, or where a lot of the speculations come from, and again, we'll talk about this, Jason,
right,
is the infrastructure side more than anything else.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you've said in Canada most of the wireless
The majority of our
infrastructure.
yeah, the majority of our infrastructure up here for years has used Huawei without any concerns. We sell the phones up here, our towers, all sorts of stuff. Telus, Bell, Rogers use Huawei equipment.
Right.
Have for years. Not necessarily all,
I don't
but
know if any portion of the US networks are part of are you using Huawei components. I don't know.
yeah. But the 90-day thing, just like Drew says here, the 90 isn't just for Huawei, it's also for U.S. companies that do business with them to
Right.
give them time to adjust. And who knows, between now and the next 90 days, I think again it's August 19th, the ban could be lifted. They could figure stuff out. I highly doubt it based on the history,
Right.
but right. So
Yeah, I mean, the important thing that maybe, I mean, this has come to a head at this moment and there's certain aspects and situations that have sort of pushed it forward a little bit more than it had been in the past. But
mhm,
this issue with Huawei and security has been an issue for several years at least. And so it predates the Trump administration. It predates, well, I don't know if it predates the Obama administration, but it goes back, and so it's like not really a partisan thing
mhm,
as much as it is the intelligence agencies in the United States uh, I guess have some sort of information that that are that there's a potential security risk. And Huawei, it just hasn't like Huawei hasn't been able to disprove this for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, they've obviously denied it. So let's um before we go down that road really quick.
Right.
And this is fact. Google has said this, Android has said this, and Huawei has said this. If you currently own a Huawei phone, or even Huawei phones that are out there right now on store shelves without even being activated, those
Right.
devices are still supported and will be supported going forward. Okay. So as for losing their Google license, they can still use, you'll still have access to the Play Store, Gmail, Google Photos, all that good stuff, maps and everything. Okay.
Right.
It's new devices that come out after the ban
Right.
that will be affected.
Right.
Okay. But to go back, of what you said there, Jason, about there's just been so I've I started taking a deep dive a couple of weeks ago. I was talking with Roberto about ideas and everything like that, and I kind of want to change things up. I kind of want to do some more deep dives and everything that on companies and everything. And I started doing some deep dives and researching Huawei and everything like that. And all that I could find were just a lot of headlines and speculation. And we know that they have ties to the Chinese military, but apparently,
Well, the Communist Party, which
yeah,
is
but apparently, though, depending on what you read, that's a requirement in China.
yeah. I mean that's I saw a couple of things that said that, and I'd never heard that before. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that I haven't heard it before. But the founder of Huawei is a member of the Communist Party, which I get the impression that being a member of the party means that you're directly tied to the government.
Mm-hmm.
So that I mean,
But like you
there's that.
said,
But
Huawei hasn't done a good job to explain maybe why those ties are there,
right,
and because it's part of the culture. That's what I seem to be getting out of all this. Again, I'm not trying to defend guys. I'm just trying to lay out what I have read. And I don't read just headlines. I try to read the articles. I mean, I've read everything from the Washington Post to so and so's article that they wrote out of their blog out of their basement, right?
right,
So I've read all different sides, and Vice did a really good video the other day about it.
yeah.
So
Which I just watched. You sent it to me
mm-hmm.
before this all started, and it
Yeah,
was very interesting.
yeah,
I guess Huawei took out a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal saying we invite
like everybody.
all the news outlets, whatever, to fly over here. We'll give them a tour of the facilities. We'll give them interviews and let them ask questions and blah blah blah. And I guess uh, Vice was the only news organization that took the it
Took the invite.
took it, like actually went.
That was
So
back in February this year. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So I think once we got into the video, it was still definitely like you could tell that he was being handled
Well,
and what
he
he
had a handler here, he had an interpreter here, a handler here. So
yeah,
it was all very much show. But then when he had a chance to actually sit down and ask some of those tough questions,
right, right.
right?
So he was the senior vice president of something or other.
Mm-hmm.
um he got to ask a bunch of questions to her, and she seemed to be candid, but then again, I mean, this is basically kind of like a he said she said until somebody shows their cards,
Absolutely.
right? So and I know that for security reasons, like the US intelligence community is not going to come out and say like here's what we know,
Yeah.
you know? So
And
it's
that's the frustrating part. You have these intelligence agencies saying we suspect, we have reason to, but nothing's been put on the table. Do you know what I mean? Nothing's been, so you have to, like, whose word? Like, what?
well, I think that the only way that this could possibly be resolved in this ban being lifted on Huawei is that Huawei provides some sort of concrete evidence that Either
Exactly.
if there was security backdoors in some of their products before, they're not there now,
Hmm.
and you know, but it's the whole impetus falls onto Huawei at this point,
Hmm.
because I think, you know, for many reasons, the U.S. intelligence agency is not gonna sit down and just sort of lay it all out there.
So have you been watching Unbox Therapy, Lewis's new channel, Lou Later?
No.
So he put out a video today. I haven't watched all of it yet, but one of the things he said in his video today about the whole, because he was talking about the whole 90-day thing that I brought up here, um, how they have till August. He asked the question, you know, why not just give them to that date? Why give the ban and then 24 hours later, here's 90 days? And he speculated, and I agree with him, that this is the pressure, now public pressure, that Huawei
Right.
needs in order to say, okay, everybody, here are the books. Here's how we do things, and this is why. Like you
Right.
said, putting it on the table.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna have to do their due diligence in letting people into the software that they've developed, you know, and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff, to really put this to rest. I mean, at this point, something like this ban has been in the air for several years.
Well, it was self-imposed for the last year and a half when the
Yeah,
whole Verizon 24 hours before AT&T,
right,
right? Yeah.
right. You know, I remember buying the Nexus 6P,
Hmm.
and you know, that was a Huawei phone,
It was a
and
gorgeous phone. It was a
yeah,
great phone.
and then and then Best Buy took every single one. Like, so within 24 hours, AT&T dropped their plans to carry a Huawei phone,
Hmm.
and Best Buy pulled every Huawei phone out of their stores.
Yep.
And what else happened? Something else happened, but it was all like boom.
Yeah. It happened like overnight kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I tend to lean to the side of like, okay, I don't know what's happening. I can't know what's happening. But I don't think you just do this because,
Hmm.
you know, so there's something there. And we've got in the chat now, in the live stream, not the chat, he was in the chat before, but now we've got the man about tech, the
There we go.
captain of Team Apple, Mr. Viper. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Apparently today is Let's Get Viper on our podcast day. This is the third one tonight. So yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Jeez.
How
Well,
y'all how y'all doing?
well, you
Good.
know,
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too. I see you guys talking about. Oh, I hear you talking about Huawei, huh?
Yeah, we
oh
finally
yeah,
got to the hot topic. Yep.
yeah. Danny Wood, yeah, the Nexus 6P was a great phone for like anywhere between 6 and 12 months.
Viper, your 5G video was awesome.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
thought
it.
it was I didn't know what to comment. I just thumbed up. I'm like, this is really good.
Too bad YouTube demonetized it for whatever reason,
Yeah. Well,
Ooh.
it happens.
Mm, mm.
and they still
That's
haven't
not.
remonetized it. So I don't know what the hell going on with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
I
know
don't
either.
know. Monetization on YouTube right now is pissing me off. Like,
Yeah.
I've lost like more than 30% of what income I was bringing in since whatever they're doing with the algorithm started.
What, you've been getting the orange
No,
or
no, no.
yellow?
My overall income from AdSense has gone down by 30%,
Oh.
which
Hmm.
of course I quit my job and then YouTube tweaks the algorithm and and I
Seriously,
lose 30% of my what I basically had been making for the past year.
Hmm.
I did a Dear I Just Think video tonight, and it was demonetized before it even went live.
I
Now
saw
since
it.
they have since remonetized it, but why did they get demonetized in the first place? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Moderator.
I mean, I've a couple of these podcast recordings were demonetized for unknown reasons. Uh, but I haven't had like the yellow monetization sticker for a while on anything. It might be because of my affiliation with my MCN. I don't know. But yeah, it's
I went through a couple weeks of like you said before it was even published back in October, November, but it was like within an hour it went greenback. So I don't know if it's a channel thing or what, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it'll all come out in the wash in the end. I know, talking to Roberto and other people who do the who do the coaching, who do the studying of the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to figure out what happened, and why. But it seems like the biggest thing is that they're putting even more focus on watch time, in a way that like the cumulative watch time is more important or something. I'm not exactly sure, so I don't want to speak. I don't want to say something that's not accurate.
But anyway, let's
stay on target. Yes. Yeah. We where did Tech Rant go? I mean, he's supposed to be helping us here.
I don't know.
So anyway, so back to Huawei. We've covered the discussion of
the facts,
like where we are right now, and some of what we can know that brought us up to this point. But I think the more interesting discussion, which is more speculative and probably more difficult to even have a sense of whether or not what's right and what's not, because we haven't seen what the next moves are from the parties involved. What does this mean for tech overall? What does this mean? I can't imagine that there's a tech company out there that is 100% free of using something in China. You know, like it's possible, but I think all of the big smartphone manufacturers are using China to either manufacture their phones or something else, or get parts from there. So it's I see a possibility that China could turn around and impose sanctions on U.S. companies. You know, start to up their tariffs and all that kind of stuff for companies going in and bringing out stuff. And once they do that, it could have a huge impact on tech. I mean, all the possibilities are so wide ranging that it's difficult to say this will happen or that'll happen. But
one thing I've seen people speculate a lot on in comment sections and everything like that is they could do something and it'll make Apple iPhones more expensive. I don't know about that because Apple did move a lot of their manufacturing last year into India. So they kind of they either had the foresight or they want to be able to spread around where they do their manufacturing. Again, everything we're talking about now is kind of speculation.
Right.
But that's one thing that people are seems like they're somewhat worried about could happen if you want to talk about directly about other companies. I know Viper had some good points the other day. Go ahead, bud.
Good points about
about how China could possibly hit back with U.S. companies.
Yeah, but it's just like Jason's saying. If China decides to do the same thing that the U.S. is doing, iPhones, they were, or still a lot of them are manufactured at the Foxconn companies in China. So you're talking about iPhones not being able to be manufactured in China if they want to retaliate, and where would that leave Apple? I mean, are they fully up and operational in India? I mean, we don't know. I'm pretty sure that would make Trump happy because he wants iPhones manufactured in the U.S. anyway, but that will drive up the cost of iPhones. So, I mean, like Jason said, this has so many far-reaching implications. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that only presupposes that Apple would pass these additional costs on to the consumer. We all know what the margins are on an iPhone. It's like basically just building the iPhone is like 30% of the cost of the phone. Now there's all kinds of other stuff that goes into producing, marketing, et cetera, of these phones. So I mean, it could quite possibly be that Apple, like, decides to skim off some of their margin in order to lessen the blow. But what red-blooded American company is ever going to do that? So it's interesting to think about. Like, someone asked in I think it was on my Twitter today. Somebody asked if Samsung and Google now have a window to sort of really dig in and get back some market share and get on top of Apple and Huawei. Maybe. I don't know. I don't. I know Samsung makes their own stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and so by and large they're in South Korea, and that's like they're not really affected by this in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So Google, I don't know where their manufacturing base is or anything like that.
Well, Google outsources to different companies. So, for example, I think the 3A is actually made by LG, or it might be HTC. For
Well,
example,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, Google owned part of HTC for a while.
Yeah. Well, they took in
And
a big chunk of the team
right.
when the 3 came out last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know exactly. I think that Google had to do something pretty drastic to gain some market share. And I think the 3A and 3A XL were the right moves
Mm-hmm.
for them. I think, I mean, I've been using this phone for almost 2 weeks now, and I'm pretty impressed with it.
Which one's that?
The 3A XL.
Oh, yeah, you purchased one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want to own a phone outright, like, you can't really go wrong with this phone. I just when I opened my phone here, I found Honor 20 Huawei Android phone launch defies Donald Trump. Well, that's an incendiary headline, but so I guess they're releasing a phone, and I don't know. This is from The Guardian. Take it for whatever it is. They're releasing the Honor 20 and the Honor 20 Pro, and somehow this is in defiance of our president. I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure the phone's already scheduled to be released today, and that the sanctions just happened to come down.
Yeah.
Oh my God, these headlines are so stupid sometimes. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to compete. Take it from me, the master of clickbait, supposedly.
Oh, he admits it now.
According to dozens of comments every video, I am the master of clickbait. It's like, I don't know.
Yes, clickbait or title. Gotta love it.
Well, my most recent video hasn't had anybody complaining about that. And
well, it's not clickbait if what you talk about happens in the video. I mean,
well, I know, but I think we now have to admit that for the majority of people, the definition of clickbait now means anything that is like somewhat sensational to get people to click the video. That's clickbait.
People like to complain.
It's interesting because when we first heard about Google ceasing business with Huawei, everybody immediately thought about the smartphones and what that would do to Huawei smartphone business. But Jonathan Casey brought up some interesting points on Twitter this afternoon, and he was talking about how this affects Microsoft and the Windows operating system and things like that. Like, theoretically, Huawei wouldn't even be able to have Windows on any of their computers going forward too at this point. So
that's right.
It's craziness.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
And Huawei's latest laptop, I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of the best out there. I know Matthew Monis uses and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I mean they've always been good. Like they're all mate laptops of some kind, and so I don't know how that necessarily. I don't know all the differences between the lines. They look a lot like a MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
Mate
I
book,
don't.
yeah. Danny
Yeah, no.
knows. Yeah,
MateBook, yeah, Danny Wood, that's right.
Yeah.
The, so yeah, that was the most interesting thing about the the Vice video when they went into the Huawei store, and it was as if they had taken all of the Apple stuff out of an Apple store.
You're talking about the Vice video?
Yeah. So maybe Zach, if you have that link handy, maybe you could drop it in the chat so people
Sure.
could
Give me a
watch.
sec. Not a problem.
But yeah, they went. One of the last things they did was they went to a Huawei store, and it was almost exactly a copy in every way possible of of an Apple store. It had like the blonde wood tables with the glass, the way the shelves display the stuff that's being sold on the walls. It was, and he asked this guy who was his handler, I guess. Um, and he was like, "Yeah, this looks a whole lot like an Apple store. You do realize that, right?" And the guy's like, "Well, I mean, a lot of companies have stores like this, and they all have similar feel to them." And he was like, "No, no, no, this looks exactly like an Apple store." And he's like, "Well, I disagree."
Well, I mean, they probably like, hey, if it worked for Samsung, maybe it could work for us.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to have any Huawei stores in the U.S. That much is clear. But
so, Jason, I have a question for you. I don't know if you guys talked about this before I got on, but what do we think about I think what was it, the U.S. Department of Commerce or whatever it was, granting businesses 3 months to get their affairs in order with Huawei or Chinese companies in general?
I haven't studied it. I've heard about it, and I have to figure that it was like there was once the impact of this all sort of started to settle. I imagine the American companies that were going to be affected went to the government and said, look, we can't just. It's going to be very very bad for us if we just cut it off midstream. We need some time to get stuff going, and
I think it was planned from the start to
yeah,
get public attention.
maybe.
Yeah, that's
I mean, yeah, it's and Danny Wood makes a good point here. 90 days to overhaul your whole supply chain is a tall order,
Mm-hmm.
but I ultimately I don't think it's going to matter all that much. We're still going to have the same outcome, and as Zach and I were talking about before you jumped on, Viper, really it's especially with this 90-day sort of grace period, the onus is on Huawei even more now to come forward and show some, if they have it to show some kind of evidence proving that these accusations are,
But don't you think
unfounded.
Don't you think U.S. security? I mean, whoever it is, whether it's CIA or whatever. I mean, whoever's been making the claims, don't you think they should also come forward with their like hard evidence? Because so far it's just like we have reason to believe, we have evidence that suggests that do you mean it's just.
Well, I mean, I would imagine that they have more than just evidence to suggest. I imagine that they have very specific stuff that they have encountered, that they have found over the course of these years, that is part of the rationale behind this. But I mean, usually major world powers intelligence agencies are not really super forthcoming with that kind of stuff.
So remember how we talked before about how people said that misinformation. So Dream Kings, I'm not trying to pick on you. He says here right now, Huawei Mate 20 series, P30, any other recent phones aren't worth new or used in the US. That's if you're talking about support, that's incorrect. Google and Android have already come out and said that any current devices, even devices that are on store shelves right now, not even activated, will still have full support, access to the Play Store, access to all the apps and everything.
Right.
It's it's new devices after the ban that will be affected.
Yeah. So anything that is currently made.
Yeah. So like my Mate 20 Pro here, still good to go.
Yeah. Although like using a Huawei phone long term is probably not as good a thing as
I mean, basically anything that's current or on the shelves right now, you're still gonna be able to use for the life of the device, whether it's a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, and then you just switch up.
So,
Right.
so Jason C asks, do we think that the reports that Huawei has a Kirin OS or something along those lines ready to go?
So they stated months ago that they've been working on their own.
Right.
So this is not new.
Samsung, I know, has Tizen OS. Like, I think they have like up to date versions of their operating system running Tizen as opposed to running app.
Samsung
Android.
could flip the switch anytime and go to Tizen. But I mean, the problem is, and you can ask Microsoft about this, you got to get the app developers on board.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, right now there are two major platforms, and it's already not really very easy to develop for both. So,
but here's the thing, though. Let's speculate here.
Okay, speculation.
So Jason, you use an iPhone. You also use Google. Phones or Android phones.
Yeah.
When you are on your iPhone, you probably use Gmail, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you pick up a Huawei phone that has Kirin OS or whatever they're going to call it, but doesn't have access to Gmail, the app,
right?
That's a deal breaker.
Here's the question. Now, what about if you're just putting your Gmail information into like Apple's Mail app?
Oh, that would work though. That would work. Yes.
Yes.
So like, for example, Samsung has their own mail app on there, which I use for all my Exchange emails.
Right.
But yes, I could put my Gmail in there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that would work. That would be a workaround. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, the Gmail app on Android is better than the Gmail app on iOS.
Oh, it's terrible on iOS. But also, in addition to that, what else is tied to your Gmail? Your Google Photos, which is awesome. Right. Google Photos is pretty dang awesome. Google Keep, Sheets. I mean, it goes on and on. There's a whole suite of things, right? Which is, I guess you want to call it their quote unquote ecosystem. But then you lose access to that. So why would I want to buy a Huawei phone? Right.
Well, I mean, it's somewhat a moot point in the United States, since we couldn't really buy Huawei phones without jumping through some hoops in the first place. Like you'd have to know what you want. You'd have to know where to go to buy it. You'd have to import it, all those kinds of things, which the majority of people are not going to do. So in the day-to-day life of the average American, who's thinking about buying a phone, like this Huawei thing doesn't affect them at all.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It may affect them when perhaps this affects the companies that are here, that we do buy, that we do have access to, but that remains to be seen. So
I don't know. It's like I mean, the story is still moving and everything like that. It should be very interesting. I'm of the opinion right now at this point. And I'm in an interesting spot because I'm in Canada. I have access to these devices. We use their infrastructure here. We've never had any reason to, but currently the Canadian government is still deciding whether they're going to use Huawei infrastructure for 5G. That decision apparently is supposed to come down this fall. I bet you it'll be an election issue because this year it's an election, federal election. But I would like to see some definitive information or proof from the U.S. government or agencies, and then also for China to put their cards on the table and just figure stuff out. But I mean, we're talking about national security. It's not going to happen, right? I mean, in a happy world, it would, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not. It's not a George R. Martin story. I mean,
Oh,
or
God,
maybe it is. I don't know.
please. Am I ready to go with that yet? I'm not.
We're not going to talk. I don't know if we should talk about that tonight.
Oh, you know, it went so well on Viper's live stream on Sunday.
Everything tech, you are. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Canada does use Huawei infrastructure. Give your local Bell, Telus, or Rogers corporate a call. They have for years.
So there's that. Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that's probably one of the biggest pieces of news in the tech industry that hasn't actually had to do with tech.
It's never happened.
Yeah, this is huge, and it could have wide-ranging effects. Interestingly enough, somebody pointed out to me, and I can't remember where this from, that this is like Star Wars now, where like we're warring with the Trade Federation or whatever, and it's going to be an intergalactic trade war that ultimately ends up with politicians being secret bad dudes, and I don't know. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing.
Not.
But how bad it will be and how it will affect everybody's we probably won't see the effects of it until 2020 on the consumer side. So,
well, I mean, I pointed this out on, I think it was Sunday, that, I mean, at least here in Canada, because I mean, when it comes to Huawei handsets specifically, there's a reason why we can walk into a carrier store here and prices are not through the roof. I mean, because you have your iPhones, you have your Samsungs, your different levels, your J's, your Galaxies, etc. And then you have your LGs, and you have your Alcatel, and then you have your Huawei's. And if without competition, people are laughing. Like, competition is good for consumers. Okay. And if you take away one of the biggest competitors out there, who's probably going to be the number one manufacturer in the world next year, if not by the end of this year, depending on what happens with this ban.
Right.
That's huge. That's huge. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've never had anything like this happen. So there's more news, there's more information that's gonna come out, that's gonna give us a better idea of where this is coming from and where it's gonna go. But at this point, all we can say is, wow.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Do you see things getting figured out in the next 90 days or no? Like the ban being lifted, do you think their name's going to be taken off?
This has been an issue for years now, and Huawei hasn't been able to take the steps to.
And at the same time, the U.S. hasn't been able to put the full information out there. Yeah,
but I would say that the onus is on Huawei. Huawei has more interest in being able to show themselves, show everyone, and satisfy the suspicions of the intelligence agencies. The onus is on them to do that, and the intelligence agencies, basically it's sort of like they're an advisory. They work in an advisory they're sort of an advisory agency to the federal government at this point, and all of the parts of the federal government that might be affected by this. So if they say, and I'm sure there are reports that delineate it a whole lot more specifically than what we know, but if they have these reports, if they have this evidence, if they have, even suspicions that are founded enough to cause concern, then yeah, I think it's on Huawei to come back and say, no, we're an open book. We want to be able to do business with U.S. companies. We want to be able to do business in the U.S., and so we're going to show you everything that you want to see.
Mhm.
The only reason Huawei wouldn't do that, I would imagine, is if the is if the suspicions and allegations are actually true,
Mhm.
and that would be a problem for them.
So basically, who's going to blink first?
Yeah, I mean, you got to admit, at least until if the Chinese government retaliates against the United States in the trade sector, um, the U.S. is sitting in a catbird seat at this point. It's not affecting the consumers in the U.S. It is affecting U.S. businesses, so that might become an issue later on. But for the most part, we haven't needed Huawei to this point. We've lived in a Huawei free world in the United States, and
I
things
mean,
have been
from what you know physically.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, let me ask you this: when you went to Best Buy, did they have Huawei laptops there?
Mm-mm,
No.
no way, no,
Okay.
nothing.
Did
So
you?
anything? So basically, on the consumer side, nothing that you've seen. But again, there's the infrastructure side. There's them making parts for this company, that company, et cetera, et cetera. That's probably still going on.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you guys talk about the comment from the Huawei CEO about his daughter potentially going to jail?
No, I haven't seen that.
The one
So
that's in custody here in Canada, right?
yeah, right. So his daughter is in custody. She's the
Mhm.
CFO of Huawei. So I guess the CEO, her daddy, made comments stating that he expects her to go to jail.
But for what? What are the charges? The allegations?
There's something involving Iran and working with them, even though it's above and beyond U.S. sanctions. Again, don't quote me. I know that Iran's somehow involved with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Canadian authorities took her into custody in Vancouver at the request of the U.S. State Department.
Yeah, apparently she was selling trade secrets to Iran or something. So
So I mean, that's pretty intense.
yeah.
Well, and in retaliation, even though they say it's not related, China is no longer taking Canadian canola, which is a big deal actually for my family because my grand or my uncle has a canola farm, and also several Canadian pork producers have also been cut off, even though they're having a cull right now in China because of a pork disease.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're running out of pork, and they're literally not importing anymore from specific Canadian agencies. I mean,
It's gonna have to get that fried rice with soy.
I don't know, but I mean that's just the beginning, right? So
Yeah. So I mean, here in Iowa, government like a lot of our corn is turned into other things that go all over the world, and I know this situation with the Chinese and Huawei is going to have a local impact. I mean, that's the talk in the news here in Iowa has been like how even this trade discussion, this trade back and forth, and imposing more sanctions or whatever, has the real potential to like severely damage farmers in Iowa.
mhm.
And so I will say this. Um, there's another presidential election next year, and most of this is gonna have to come out in the wash, like because the current president went to the people of the middle states and basically sold them on this whole idea of supporting and growing U.S. companies. And so if major sanctions cause that to not be the case, then it's going to be really difficult to um, continue to compel those people with your rhetoric. Right. But then again, I
Mhm.
mean, in West Virginia, he said he was going to bring back the coal industry, and the coal industry's been dead since probably 1990,
Mhm.
and they still voted for him. So who knows? Anyway, I mean,
There's a
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we want to go down that rabbit hole. There's a question in the chat that someone's been trying to ask for a while. I'm not sure how well we can answer this, but I know that you can.
I've been seeing that question.
And I know that you can because you did some research on it. So why don't you go ahead?
Well, I don't know enough about. Okay, here are some things that I have come to know about Apple's manufacturing in China, and the facilities that they use, and the way that those facilities are run, how much the workers are paid, et cetera, et cetera. It's you have to know on level one, the entire infrastructure of how those people are working and getting paid um, is so different from what we do that it's difficult for us to really put it into context. Now, I'm not trying to like make any excuses or talk my way around something, but Shenzhen, China is basically a major city that contains factories.
It's just factories.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like a major city that contains factories. and people go and they work in these factories. They're housed. They get paid a stipend that's probably not comparable to what they would a U.S. worker would be paid. There were issues with working conditions, and people did jump off the buildings and all that kind of stuff. But a point was made to me when I talked about it a couple of years ago from our good friend Andrew Edwards, that Apple wasn't the only manufacturer that was manufacturing. That was Apple wasn't the only manufacturer that was manufacturing products in those facilities. So so it's like you can point at Apple and say they did this, and I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that the way Apple does its business is 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
They're a business, and obviously they're going to operate within the parentheses.
Do they still outsource Foxconn to do their manufacturing? I think they still do, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I mean, at this point, Foxconn has been making iPhones for 10 years.
Yeah. They do manufacturing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, including Google now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really hard for me sitting in the United States, knowing mostly about the way that the United States employment market works, to be able to say anything intelligent about the way that the Chinese workers are compensated, or how the companies are operating over there, and be in any way accurate. So, we've had companies in the U.S. that have been dinged for untoward practices in manufacturing. I mean, Nike a couple of different times.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what's the daughter's name? Ivanka Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So her clothing line.
She's so pretty.
I
think she's pretty.
So I don't disagree with you. I just
Okay.
every time I think about it, I didn't think about things that her father has said about her, and it's just all weird. So so yeah, it's the U.S. companies have been dinged and have been called out for and have been sanctioned for in untoward labor practices in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Apple, to this point, to my knowledge, has not been. So I mean, that's the most I can say about it, really.
Yeah.
So going back to what I was asking you earlier about the Huawei CEO and his daughter, and him saying that he expects her to go to jail, somebody was saying that maybe this proves that maybe Huawei, like, either he knows that she's guilty, or that he doesn't really want to get involved, or I don't know. It just looks kind of shady that he kind of capitulating that his daughter might be involved with some stuff that she shouldn't be involved with. I don't know.
But does that?
Well, I mean, is she involved in that stuff as a representative of Huawei? Is one question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she obviously, from what you've told me, is a high-ranking official in Huawei, the company. And if Huawei is selling trade secrets to Iran, and that's one thing that they've been accused of, selling trade secrets from one place or buying trade secrets from one place to the next, or so that's one of the things that they've been accused of. And so if she if there's probable cause to detain her on an allegation like that, you know, innocent until proven guilty, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's probable cause enough to detain her for that, then it doesn't sound good for Huawei.
She's currently on house arrest, so she's in one of her, like I think one of 3 large mansion type homes in Vancouver. She's got an ankle bracelet on. I know that, and
Right.
it's before the courts and in front of the lawyers right now. So she's not in U.S. custody. She's still in Canadian custody, and there's been some speculation here and there that she may have been detained illegally. So all charges could be dropped, and she could hop on a plane and take off again.
Yeah.
But again, that's all speculation right now. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we just kind of don't know a lot.
yeah.
Um,
I never thought politics and tech would intersect this closely in my time of doing this, and also before I even started doing this. I never thought, you know what I mean? It's
Well-
so, yeah.
it makes sense now. I mean, tech is probably the most. It's probably become so large a financial concern on all fronts
Mm-hmm.
that the relationship between governments and the tech industry and how those things sort of coalesce and move back and forth is going to be a big deal. Now, I've seen people in chat or in the comments of my in the comments on my video about this Huawei situation saying like, well, we need to do things in America. And so this is good. Um, we we also like we owe the most money of any country that we have taken loans from in one way or another. We owe the most money. The United States owes the most money to China.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of financial and infrastructure and that kind of stuff, China is leveraged a heck of a lot better than we are. And it has to do with the way that they do business, and we don't do business that way. But it's not something that happened yesterday. This has been a pattern that has occurred over the course of probably the past 3 decades, where industry and manufacturing left the United States and went other places. One of the places that it went was China. A large part of it went to China.
And this is an oversimplification, but if you're complaining about $1,000 phones now, imagine if that manufacturing came back to the United States or Canada. I mean, North America.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we'd see some different products being offered.
Oh yeah, I think you see those tier 2 and tier 3 devices taking up. A 400 pixel phone looks pretty good at $800. Right.
Right. Me, Gunner? I don't know enough about how that debt is structured or in what way we really acquired that debt and what the whole situation is in terms of how that debt is paid back. Because international finance is not my strong suit. But the way that I have heard it described is that businesses and the government and international interests are intertwined in such a way that everybody's kind of beholden to everybody. But China sits in a better position because they hold the most cards. So that's the way that I've understood it. Again, not being an international finance guru, I don't know the details.
So to kind of go on top of what Chris H says here in the chat, it's not that the United States couldn't make phones here in North America, it's because of costs, right? Like I said, if you're complaining about $1,000 phone now, based on economics now, if you were to bring that over here, you can double.
Yeah.
Double and a half.
Yeah.
$2,500.
I mean, so for U.S. workers to manufacture electronics in the way that in the way that they're being manufactured at this point in other countries,
Mm-hmm.
like the amount of money that you would have to pay in infrastructure and in labor and other things would be so great as to double, if not triple, the cost of what it costs.
Danny Wood puts it perfectly. The biggest liability in business is labor, period. Why do you see more and more companies doing automated this, automated that?
Yeah.
Right?
But automation is something that, I mean, it's ongoing and it's going to continue to happen. And the truth of the matter is, like, a lot of manufacturing jobs will go away everywhere. And, the machines will need people to take care of them.
Skynet.
But
Piper knows about that.
I told y'all. He telling you.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, no matter what the outcome of, artificial intelligence and like mechanically aided lifestyle, et cetera, I think the genie's out of the bottle. We can't put it back in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural progression that, I mean, even in Terminator came out in 1982?
The first one?
84?
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's see, what's that? 35 years?
Yeah.
This has been something that's been on our minds. We're just a lot closer to it right now than we ever have.
Okay. Let's switch up topics.
Okay.
I think we've beaten this to death.
Right there, I'm not saying it was that's a little bit over 90 minutes.
I'm just trying to keep things within that window that we talked about.
Yeah, I know. A little bit over 90 minutes, but
I mean,
that seems like it would be podcast lengthy.
So let me just end off with this, with the whole Huawei thing. And this is for everybody listening or in the chat. Please do yourself and your brain a favor. And I'm not saying be careful, but don't just read headlines in the next few months, because there's so many moving parts. Okay. MKBHD, Marquez put out a tweet today saying that he's going to do a video on this. And if anybody's going to do some really great research on it, I think it'll be him and his team. So be really careful. Just make sure you're getting your information from reliable sources, and make sure you're reading articles and you're understanding the scope of what's going on, because this whole thing is moving right now. It's live right now.
Put on your critical thinking hats, however dusty they might be.
And even if it goes against what you don't like, if you're anti-China and everything like that, that's fine. But at least open your mind a little bit to what is actually happening. Right?
So I'm going to address Me Gunner's question up here. He asks, why doesn't the U.S. government or U.S.-based companies invest millions or billions on how to produce high-quality, cheap products for phones? Why don't we invest in the infrastructure that would be necessary to produce phones here at a more reasonable cost?
It's a good question.
The only way that is possible is if we became a strictly socialist country. If everybody worked off of a universal basic income and then were subsidized over and above by what jobs they do, they would be given housing that would be appropriate to their level of income. They would get vouchers for food. They would get, I mean, I've spent time in Belgium. Belgium is a socialist country. They have a lot of their stuff assigned to them. And I can tell you that they're very happy people, and they enjoy themselves. They enjoy themselves quite a bit as well, because there's a lot of things that really put a huge amount of stress on you as a human being that impact your ability to be happy. That if infrastructure were to change, then we would have a lot less to worry about. Again, we would know that we have jobs. We would know that we have roofs over our heads. We would know that we have, income guaranteed to us, and that would solve the problem.
You do realize that there are people in this country that want $15 an hour just to flip burgers, bruh. But you want to talk about people building phones in this country? Do you know how much those Foxconn workers get paid over in China and India to do this stuff? Pennies on a dollar per day, bruh. But
Yeah,
in the US, they want 15.
$15 an hour is
Oh.
is barely a livable wage for 40 hours of work.
Correct.
Barely.
But
And I've campaigned on this when I ran for office. I believe that we should be at $15 right now. We probably should have been at $15 5 years ago.
But my point is, the wages that are paid over in the countries where these phones are manufactured, nowhere near $15 an hour.
But if we can't do it, if it's no longer financially beneficial to us because of trade sanctions or anything else like that, and we have to figure out a way to do it here, it would mean a change of our entire infrastructure as a country. We would become, I mean, we don't have to not be a democracy, but we would have to let a lot of stuff go and get that sort of large scale savings as a country in order to be able to fulfill the needs that we have. But, I mean, that's the whole idea behind democratic socialism, but there's a lot of misinformation about what socialism is. There's a lot of misinformation about any of that stuff. But in order for us to make those products here and for those products to be affordable, we'd have to change a lot about the way that we do everything in this country, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing because there's a lot of stuff that's not working for a lot of people, but that's another discussion. So, end of podcast. Click.
No. Didn't you want to talk about that other?
Well, no, that's just the end of that would be the end of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Now we can talk about something else.
We did on Sunday, but someone got really upset. See, laugh now.
Okay, for Danny Wood. See, Danny Wood is over there in the UK. And the UK has a system that's not as impactful as what I was describing, but the way that the UK operates in terms of their education, in terms of that kind of like jobs and education and all those kinds of things is more similar.
Danny says he's in Toronto.
Oh,
or as they say it over there, Toronto.
Okay, I saw the British spelling of.
No, we do it here in Canada as well.
Flavor with a U.
with a U.
Okay,
favorite
anyway.
With a U. Yeah. You must have seen it some of my spelling here and there.
Probably. So,
Toronto.
Apologies for putting you in a different country than you actually are in. But my point is still that like in the UK, they are much more socialist about much more stuff than we are. Well, Canada is too. So, you guys got single payer free healthcare.
Well, okay. Can I address because I think there's a little bit of misinformation in the United States about how the healthcare up here works. Okay. So, despite what some people will tell you, we do actually have 2 tiers. So I do, for example, for me, for some of the medical things that I'm going through right now, which we won't get into, I've been paying to go and get certain things done like right away rather than on a list. Okay.
Right.
If I fell and broke my arm tonight and I went to emergency, I would be waiting in emergency for, hours. It could be 8 hours. I'm serious. You don't just walk in and see a doctor. The worst, if someone comes in, obviously with a gunshot, they're going to be taken right away. The night I went in and I found out about my hernia, I was in extreme pain, screaming, yelling, and everything like that. They took me in right away, obviously. Okay. Yes, you can pay to get access right away through private clinics, but it's not like we could just walk in and get stuff. I mean, we do basically walk in, but there is a wait. There are wait times. That's one of the biggest issues up here is wait times. Okay.
So,
But when I leave, I don't have to cut a check. I don't have to,
right.
give my left kidney. Depending on my coverage through my employer, if I had an employer or whatever, I can either have my own private room or I can share with somebody else. You're usually sharing with somebody else.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you got for certain things, there's a single payer tier where So I would imagine like yearly checkups and that kind of thing are part of that, as well as emergency services and those kinds of things. Maybe some other stuff, but the funny thing is, like, what you've just described is no different than what happens in the United States.
Yeah.
But we have to pay out the ass for it.
Yeah. And I can't remember who. Oh, I think it was Coach. His wife recently went in and got some stuff. Maybe it was her.
He had some surgery.
Someone recently tweeted someone in our community about.
Oh,
blah,
no,
blah, blah.
you're right. The coach.
$64,000 bill, but it's covered $250. Someone, I can't remember who tweeted that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that just blew my mind. Like, not even I would have to pay that, because I mean, we don't pay premiums here in this province where I live. Some provinces are like a state, but physically bigger.
Right.
They do pay healthcare premiums.
Right.
Okay. But here in Alberta, where I am, we don't have that.
Right.
So if you really want to drill it down, yes, we're quite fortunate here, but it's not as simple as I can just walk in and, get this fixed. Right. I do need to be put on a list. I am on a list right now to have some stuff done. And that's just a fact of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to get deep into like the U.S. healthcare system because I know a considerable amount about it.
Greenspan, I own 4 properties, just so you know. I just want to say that. I'm flexing.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Weird flex, but
well,
cool.
I live in one and I rent out 3 others. So
yeah. Insurance here is terrible, Chris. If you're somebody who is not, if you're somebody who's living on an income that is lower than a certain place, basically before the Affordable Care Act, I've had several people that I know who were artists, who were musicians, et cetera, who had no recourse but they would have to, if they went to the emergency room, they would have to pay all of that money.
Yep.
It would be on them because they couldn't afford insurance. And so, and insurance premiums monthly here in the United States for private individuals can be upwards of $500 to $1,000.
Yeah.
If not more. So I've had my musician friends and other friends who work in, who are, I guess, self-employed and don't make much money. And so I have one friend who went to the emergency room when he got so sick that he just couldn't, he had to go. And unfortunately, what had been a treatable condition when he first showed signs for it, months and months and months, if not years before, was fatal. He died.
I'm sorry to hear that, Jason.
He died because everything was too far along, and he passed away. He was in his 30s.
There's too many stories like that in the United States for a country like yours. Yeah.
I have another friend who he needed back surgery. He had hurt his back in like a stage jumping incident at some point earlier in his career and had never gotten it fixed because he didn't have insurance. And he just kept letting it go. But as he got older into his 40s, it became more and more serious. So he was saving money to be able to pay for the back surgery. And while he was saving that money, he was prescribed fentanyl. And one night he put on a fentanyl patch. Maybe he put on one too many. I don't know. But he didn't wake up. He died. Now, these days, with the Affordable Care Act, I'm pretty sure that that back surgery could get taken care of before you have to take so many painkillers that you die. It's just never as simple as like, it's okay for me, so it must be okay for everybody else. Like if you have a secure job that pays you a living wage that allows you to avail yourself of everything that this country has to offer, then you are fortunate, and you should really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many people who aren't fortunate in that way. And the way we've done business in the past has let those people be swept to the margins and fall off. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make this an issue of like, Democrat, Republican, anything like that. These are just the truths that exist.
Yep.
People who are underemployed, people who are indigent for reasons like the systematic like helplessness that is part of the way the American system works. People are always like, well, these guys are lazy, they're not going to get jobs. Yeah, well, their father didn't get jobs, their grandfather got laid off, and they've never seen what a working life would be. So you can't just say like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get out there and do something. So anyway, that meant spouting over. So
do you want to talk about Game of Thrones, or do you not want to talk about Game of Thrones?
I don't know. I mean, I'll talk about Game of Thrones.
You've had about 48 hours to calm down.
I'm calmer. I'm calmer, but I'm still I still retain the same sentiments.
I've had time to think about it.
Justin Ramsden has said, "Don't talk about Game of Thrones" twice now. Chris H says no.
No, El Jefe gave us the face palm.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we shouldn't.
All right. Everybody who doesn't want us to talk about Game of Thrones, throw an N in the chat right now.
If you don't want us to, put an N.
Like, no. Luke.
I'm gonna guess there's gonna be a lot of ink, because every time we start talking about Game of Thrones, your number just dip.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a lot of N's coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't talk about it.
No, I think we beat that over the dead horse already.
Okay, well then I
think everybody's just in mourning. I think everybody's just in mourning. Like they don't want to believe. They're in the denial phase.
Chris, we're just winding things down. We usually do this. So if we're not going to talk about, let's talk about another HBO show that everybody should be watching. It's a 5-parter. Part 3 was last night.
I haven't watched it yet, so no
watch
spoilers.
Chernobyl. If you still have HBO, if you haven't canceled yet, please go watch Chernobyl.
Canceled.
Yeah, you literally canceled on Sunday night in front of all of us.
Damn right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing about Chernobyl. Like, it happened in what, 1980?
April 26, 1986.
86? Okay.
86.
I was 15 years old, or almost 15 years old.
I was 7.
Yeah. So I remember the day that it happened. I remember, well, at least the day we found out that it happened.
Yeah. I don't think you guys found out until the 28th, but yeah.
And the history of it, I mean, the history of it has never been like fully laid out. I think we're seeing things based on the history that hadn't been available to us or sort of delineated in this way on this show. Like having not watched the most recent episode and understanding what is at stake. Um, yeah, understanding how bad it could have been. Obviously, it ended up not being that bad. It was not good, but it was not like
It
poison
could have
the
been a hell of a lot
it
worse.
was. It wasn't like irradiate the entire planet and all humans die.
Well, if what was melting had hit that water,
Yeah.
it would have been like across that continent. Forget about it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So Chernobyl is very good. I
Very
I
good.
just finished watching season 5 of Bosch,
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
which I enjoy a lot. I like Titus Welliver, who plays the titular character of Harry Bosch.
Mhm.
It's really a very good series. I mean, it's not nearly as good as The Wire by a
Mhm.
long shot, but it's probably the closest thing we have to The Wire right now that I can think of.
Is that on Amazon or Netflix?
It's Amazon.
I'm gonna have to check that out then.
Yeah, it's a good series.
Is it like Bosch the company?
No, Bosch, as in Michael Conley's series of books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's a Los Angeles detective. You know,
We lost Viper.
yeah, he said he had to go eat.
Oh,
You could have eaten here.
I'm gonna eat after.
But yeah, so Hieronymus Bosch is the character through many of the novels.
Mhm.
And he's an LA homicide detective that sort of doesn't play by the rules, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm,
But the writing is good, the acting is good,
mhm.
and I enjoy it. I've read a couple Michael Conley books. He's not exactly Shakespeare, but he's a good writer. So
Okay. I have an idea tonight, Jason.
yes,
Because we're kind of rounding down things here.
Yeah. I'd say we go another 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. I want you to recommend a channel. It can be any size channel, not a tech channel for people to check out. I'll start while you have some time to look for a link. Okay.
Okay.
I'm really into I like watching all types of movies, but I like learning about facts and things like that happen behind the scenes and this and that, or maybe how a movie came about. There is a really great channel. I've been subscribed to him for at least a couple of years now. Channel's called Comedic Arts, Minty Comedic Arts, and he does a lot of 10 things you didn't know about Commando, 10 things you didn't know about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, 10 things you didn't know about Mrs. Doubtfire. He
Right.
does a lot of these. And I think everybody, if you're into movies, any type of movies, you guys should go definitely check out Minty. Okay. There's his linky right. There's his linky. There's his link right there. Go check out Minty. He's really good. I think he's in Australia. He's 182,000 subscribers. If I go to his about, he's been around since 2008. So he's an OG, right? So, but he does a lot of these like top 10 about this, top 10 about that. Really good stuff, guys. If you're into like movies, like any type of movies, just go through
Sure.
his library of stuff. Minty is really good. Check him out.
Yeah, name sounds familiar. I don't think I've seen him.
You've probably seen his stuff, but yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go in a totally different direction.
Okay.
And talk about. So I watch way too much of this. True Crime Daily.
Okay.
It's a show that has started on television, and they cut up their episodes into like 3 YouTube videos or whatever.
Okay.
It's not sort of like tabloidy. Well, it is tabloidy, but not so much so that it's like, just unwatchable.
Okay.
But it's interesting, and they have a catalog that just goes on forever. And I'm actually listening to the audiobook by the guy who started True Crime Daily, which I didn't know this, but he was also somebody who helped Michelle McNamara when she was researching and trying to find the Golden State Killer.
Okay.
He was one of the people that helped finish her book after she passed away.
Okay.
So I like true crime stuff quite a bit. It's sort of like the thing that I really get into that's not related to anything else that I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, so yeah, I enjoy it. True
I like
Crime Daily. You'll get addicted. You just can't stop.
Is that so? They have a channel on YouTube.
Yeah.
True Crime Daily. Okay. I'm subscribed to probably about 30 different dash cam channels. I like watching dash cams, like videos.
I don't,
You know, like these videos that are like 10, 15 minutes long, and it's just crash after crash after person giving the middle finger and everything like that.
right. Yeah.
But I only watch the North American ones. I don't watch the Russian stuff.
Yeah. What I've seen of Russian dash cam footage is like, I never want to drive a car in Russia. Like, those people are crazy.
I have a friend that works in oil well service here in Alberta. And so he goes over to Russia 6 months at a time. He told me it's exactly like that. He goes, they're insane over there. He goes, forget about it. Like, yeah. He doesn't drive when he goes there.
Yeah. Okay. So Luke M. Tech asked me to please give my thoughts on Game of Thrones. I will keep it brief. We don't have to have a discussion about it, but I'm gonna talk. I'll give you a brief rundown of what I thought of episode 6, the finale episode of Game of Thrones. First half hour, building towards an amazing episode. It was almost Shakespearean in the tension and the play back and forth between the characters and what their duties, etc., etc. The last 60 minutes was just one long punt. They just punted, and everything was bullshit. That's it. That's my take.
There's no spoilers. That's a good take. Yeah. I like the passion behind it on Sunday though. That was pretty good.
Yeah, my daughter was like, "Why were you yelling so much?"
You yelled at me and you hurt my feelings.
Well, you had no idea what you were walking into when
I know. I kind of asked for it, and I'm glad you didn't make it personal. I was waiting I actually had my finger on the disconnect. I'm like, if he swears at me, if he says "F you, Zach," I'm out. But you didn't. You held back. Good for you, man.
No, I was upset. That much is true. My daughter was. My daughter was afraid.
You and everybody else on Twitter.
I was with him.
Yeah,
I was with him until episode 5. I was there.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say about it.
I lost interest after episode 3.
Yeah, well. Oh yeah, anonymous. I don't know. So Apple has changed. This is one thing that I wanted to talk about when we were talking about Apple that I didn't remember. Apple has somehow changed the butterfly keyboard.
I'm looking
using
forward to
different materials.
I want to see what they've used. Yeah,
they're using different materials, and it's supposed to. I mean, I feel like it's not even worth saying this anymore. It's supposed to be better.
Yeah, we've heard that before, right?
Yeah,
like 3 times.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be better. I have to decide if I want to, in order to get one of the 8-core models, I'm going to have to pay like another $800-900 than what I spent on this.
I built one on the Apple website when we were talking.
Yeah.
If I want to get what I want to get, Canadian dollars with a 1 terabyte, $5,300 Canadian.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it quickly myself because I did it the other day and I don't know how much it will have changed with these new models coming out. So I'm gonna go to 15-inch, and I'm gonna go to the 8-core.
Mm-hmm. That's what I picked. 2.4.
So yeah. 4.8 gigahertz. 2.3 8-core turbo boost up to 4.8.
Well, there's also a 2.4 boost up to 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
well.
There's a 2.4 8-core 9th boost up to 5.
Okay, so I'm looking at that.
Okay.
But
32.
here's what we know. Here's what we know about the MacBooks.
Okay.
They basically, even the i7s will thermal throttle to the point that they're not performing any better than an i5. And they didn't, as far as I know, change anything about the thermals and how they're going to take care of the thermals in this. They just put a more powerful chip in. We already knew the i9s were no better than i7s in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, that's another discussion. Like it does,
freezer video. Wait.
yeah, I mean, nothing really has changed.
Mhm.
Nothing really has changed. These processors are going to run hot, and they're going to run too hot, and they're going to thermal throttle, and they're going to work. They're going to be as powerful as like a lower tier i7 or an i5.
Yeah.
But with Apple's operating system, anyway. Okay, so I'll just say that I'm going to go. No, I'm going to go with the
32 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah.
32. Yes.
And then which graphics?
I gotta go Vega 20 if I'm spending this money.
So the top
right?
one, Vega 20 with 4 gigabytes of, right?
Yeah, I'm still good with 512 gigabytes of storage.
Okay, so if you went 512, what is it US?
3749.
4,800 here.
Yeah, 3749 pre-tax.
Yeah.
So we're looking at over $4,000.
It's rough, man.
Luke, I did not sell my iMac Pro yet. I'm in the process of beginning to sell it. I'm also selling my S10 Plus, and I'm also selling my iPhone 10s Max.
You sell your S10 Plus, what's going to be your go-to for Android? The Razr?
This for now.
Oh,
I mean,
the Pixel?
Yeah, I know that I have to get the Note 7 or the Note 10. So, it's a few months away. So, yeah, I'm gonna keep the old 10R, and I'm gonna keep the Pixel. Like, I own this phone.
I just want to address Danny right now. I'll say on my side that my wife also has very expensive taste, so it works out.
My wife is like she's like a nun. She doesn't buy anything. She's
Very supportive, though. I know that.
She is so frugal with what she does for herself. Like, she buys all of her clothes at the secondhand store.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, she's a good shopper. She gets good stuff. But
yeah. My wife has a rule: if it's on sale, you can buy it. So I'm like, I'm always looking for sales. It was on sale. Okay, well,
Sean, I haven't looked at what the 10s Maxes are going for used right now. So I can't say off the top of my head, but I will announce it on my Twitter tomorrow. So, yeah.
I can't believe you're selling your Galaxy S10.
Here's what I got to do. I gotta pay down some of the smartphone, some of the cell bills. So I got my business, and my business is like $400 a month, and then I've got, I pay for a portion of the family, and that's at like $200. I'm paying $200 or so for that, so that's like $600+ that I'm paying for cell service, because I have all these phones.
Okay.
And so I'm selling both of those in the interest of paying down a little bit, paying off at least one device on each. So I'm trying to prepare for
Well,
this.
you're minimalizing. You were talking about this a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to prepare for the fact that I need to be more, not necessarily frugal, but I need to be more deliberate with how I spend my money. At least in the first like 6 months to a year of me being full time.
Mm-hmm.
And so having like 4 flagship smartphones laying around just isn't really practical. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. It depends on your situation, but I'm really afraid of
Dark.
no.
Okay, sorry.
I'm really afraid that that there will come a time where where I'll be like, oh shit, like I said, I lost 30 my AdSense money is down by 30 something percent. You know, and that's money that I would be like, oh, that sucks if I hadn't quit my job, but now I'm like, oh shit. You know, so it's like, so I know that'll come back up. I know it's somewhat seasonal in terms of who's watching YouTube, how much they're watching YouTube, what they're watching for, and how that affects my channel. But I just want to be able to have as low overhead as I can. So I still owe like $1,500 on the iMac Pro, and I want to pay that off and put the rest into savings. And I want to sell these phones and pay down that stuff.
Makes sense. Yep.
I've got like monitors and blah 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 and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I can sell that has just sort of built up over the past year.
And as I said I think at the beginning of our podcast, if anybody's looking for stuff, once Jason starts posting to Twitter and everything, you know that Jason's stuff is going to be well taken care of and in good condition. Like I would buy a phone from a YouTuber or tech tuber than somebody I didn't know. So
I'd say that I'd autograph it, but who the hell would want that?
Hey man, you a fan too? Give her.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do I have to pay for your Patreon?
Somebody mentioned my Patreon. I do have a Patreon. I've started to make it more doable for me, and it's going to be more doable for me as I leave the job. So patreon.com/painfully honest tech. If you love the channel, then even the smallest donation of $1 or $5 is
get you access.
It gets you access to some stuff, and will keep me from having my wife kill me.
So I have a great idea to kind of wrap up things.
Okay.
We haven't done this for a few weeks. Held for review.
Oh boy. Okay.
So you go ahead, bring up the thing. So everybody, we've done this a few times where Jason's going to bring up his held for review comments and he's going to read them off. Held for review. Yeah, Geonosis knows about this. Any of you regulars know about this. These are usually pretty explicit. So if you got speakers going and everything, and there's delicate ears around you, now's the time to put in the headphones.
Yeah.
There used to be I used to have a song, but I just don't feel like singing today, and nobody wants to hear me sing.
It's fine. Right now, I have 6,000 held for review comments.
6,000 held for review. Okay, so you can't just go read them. Please give us the context of the video, like the video it was, and then you can read the comment.
Okay.
Now,
see, I think the ones that for my most recent video are not going to be as good as some of the other ones.
Okay.
Like this one here just says, today's headlines: Google cuts ties with the idiots, hypocrites, arrogant, retarded, and mentally ill people living in America. That's held for review.
I could see why.
Yeah.
So it wasn't directed at you. It's just
no.
Someone just wanted to make a comment. Okay.
So I'm gonna scroll past that particular video. Oh man, the Game of Thrones stuff. So
oh man.
I'll just read one. So this is how YouTube channels die: by insulting their audience. You are an absolute fucking idiot.
That's the Game of Thrones video?
Yeah, from the Game of Thrones video. The next guy just says, in all caps with spaces in between each letter, FUCKYOU exclamation point. And then there's read more. Here's a downvote for you, prick.
That was the Game of Thrones video.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I'm gonna move past Game of Thrones. I tell you what, I'm gonna go to a specific video because I just get so many, and it's better to go to. Let's see.
Find one of the fold videos you did.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, the Galaxy Fold videos are always good.
Galaxy Fold videos.
Yeah, remember that thing?
Yeah. I'm still waiting for that announcement for the
So
whenever it's coming out. Still waiting. Still waiting. Okay, let's go to Galaxy Fold is dead and see what we got. Comments. And here we go. Held for review. Come on. Only 15? Yeah. That seems low. That's incredibly low. The first one says, "Delayed is not dead. I still want one." And then people just tell this person to fuck off, eat a dick, that kind of stuff. Okay,
pretty standard stuff. Pretty standard stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I know there was a recent video that I got a lot of hate on. So,
TechRant says, "Read the I'm leaving Apple comments."
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah, those ones will be juicy.
Yeah, leaving Apple after 30 years.
Yeah. Oh, is that the one where it was like a breakup message and you had
Yeah.
the music and everything?
I think so.
Yeah, nobody understood that. It's kind of like comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only 25.
Really?
Surprising. Yeah, but I bet they're good. Okay, so Shane Lawson comments, "This is clickbait." Too many ellipsis points. "You have said this 100 times. You have a go at Samsung, but say the same about Apple? 3 question marks."
That means it's serious.
And then in reply to that, Jivo Bruv says he's triggered to fuck. I don't even know what that means. Yeah. So 6644 PMR says, "Can't handle these kinds of videos anymore. Enjoyed the channel when you started." No, you didn't, because you weren't there. But the content has really taken a hit in quality in the last few months. Samuel James replies, "Tell us more. I've seen you with this handle troll every single video on YouTube that has something positive to say about Apple. It's time you move on and find another hobby instead of fucking with people in the comments section. Go get some pussy. Go out and make some friends."
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sheila Peter says, "Dude, no one cares. People choose different products and services to meet their needs. That doesn't mean you have to bash Apple. I personally don't like Android because of past experiences with the product's platform. However, I'm not going to bash Android because some people enjoy Android. Who am I to say that they are wrong? It just doesn't meet my needs. And while I realize this video is about Mac versus PC, my point is that it's possible to be pro PC without being anti-Apple." So there's nothing. There are hashtags. So hashtag this shit is getting old. And hashtag so glad I'm not a subscriber.
I think people misunderstand what the purpose of a hashtag is, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. These are not as.
These are pretty tame compared to past.
I know.
Find the juicy stuff, Jason. Or if there's no juicy stuff, that's fine.
Well, there is, but it's just all on stuff that's like maybe a little political, or the comments themselves are political. Yeah. So they're not as good. Not as good. I feel like the comments that actually are in the comments are worse than these.
Well, then read some.
Insane Clown Posse says, I'm fine. I have the iPhone 10s Max. Okay, with a little smiley face. And then, sorry, nobody gives a fuck about you, bitch. So,
I don't want you to read these if you're going to get in a bad mood.
no, I mean, I just wish they were generally better.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, everybody, listen up. We're looking for some really good comments this week. Okay, from Jason's. I'm just kidding. Don't go nuts on Jason. Most of the people in the chat tonight are pretty good people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess that's where we'll call it good.
Yeah. I guess we're done.
Yep.
So what else is happening? I guess as we said before, the whole Huawei thing is still moving and happening and everything, we'll see what happens. And we'll still wait on Samsung to come out with a fold.
I saw certain people that we know tweeting how, we're going to get that release date. I can't wait to get my hands on it. No release date yet. So I still don't think we're going to see it. Still don't think we're going to see it.
Oh, did I lose you? Am I not moving, or is Jason not moving, everybody? Dun, dun, dun. Da, da, da. Did he cut off? Are we still live? Uh-oh. Can you guys still hear me? Oh, you don't see me. Well, I would turn off the live stream if I had that power. All you guys can see is Jason's face, I'm guessing. Correct? Just my voice? I have power of the channel now. Okay, Jason just disconnected. It still says live, though. I wonder if he's going to try to... Oh, now you guys can see me. Oh, I've got control of the channel.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back?
Yep.
Damn it.
So I closed my laptop, which shouldn't have done anything, because like I have it set to I have a secondary screen. I have it set to just like be on that screen, but yeah, it's so that's what happened.
But that's so there's another tweak you got to figure out.
Yeah,
what a way to end the show.
I went and like found that specifically. Like I've been through so many laptops at this point. I know everything that I need to do when I first get it to like make it do what I want it to do.
Okay.
And it still doesn't do what I want.
For a brief 30 seconds there, I had control of Painfully Honest Tech channel.
Well, you had control of this chat.
Of the stream. Okay. But don't. I mean, let me have this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We want to say our final goodbyes, man?
Yes.
All right.
We've already given people things that they could watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you go first.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us, everybody. I really appreciate the good banter and everything back and forth in the chat. People, for the most part, were pretty well behaved tonight. Thankfully. Thanks to our mods, Tech Rant, El Jefe. Guys, make sure you guys go check out Tech Rant
for a while. Tech for Your Needs was in here for a while.
Tech for Your Needs, yeah. So, but make sure you guys go check out those guys. Tech Rant's got some really great stuff. Jeff brought out a great review today on the Pixel 3a. And the reason I liked his review is because Jeff doesn't always do phones. So it's just interesting to hear his like a phone review from someone who doesn't normally do phones. Like, it was very well done. Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I'm psyched. So,
mm-hmm.
And from my side, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for sticking around and listening to us rant about things and being generally really cool. Some people got a little out of hand, but
he didn't get as rambunctious as I thought it would tonight.
No, No, I mean,
We peaked at 201 people.
cool. Good.
It's a good night.
That's cool. But anyway, folks, thanks so much for being here. Again, like, if you don't follow us on Twitter, come find us on Twitter. If you, there's all kinds of stuff you can do to support our channels, both Zach's and mine. So anyway, I'm just reading Jeff's comment there. I took me a second to realize he was talking about his video.
Oh,
I was like, I'm out of drink right now. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. This is the Painfully Honest Tech podcast. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. Until the next time, Zach and I are